Now, despite the Republican Party's promise to get rid of Obamacare, they have decided that after the disastrous loss, they were going to give up. Sad. Recently, Senator Orrin Hatch used an interesting phrase to describe why the GOP has decided to move on. He said, "We're not going back to health care. We're in tax now." Hatch told Politico on Wednesday in a story published Monday. He said, "As far as I'm concerned, they shot their wad on health care, and that's the way it is. I'm sick of it." Now, look, I'm a child, so I immediately thought of the sexual connotation. Of course. Again, I'm a child. And I'm sure 99% or maybe 95% of people watching probably thought the same way. Now, that, of course, led to Hatch's office having to explain their turn of phrase. He said, as few of you were alive during the Civil War, here's a valuable jargon lesson on wads and the shooting of them. And again, I have to laugh. He said, wad is described by Merriam-Webster as a soft plug used to retain a powder charge or to avoid windage, when especially in a muzzle-loading gun. And again, I have to laugh at the word windage. But look, seriously though, no matter what connotation you use, it's pretty clear that most Republicans are now tired of the healthcare issue. And those that still want to push for it are either in the minority or they have upcoming elections in extremely conservative districts. So they keep having to say, oh, the Obamacare, I'm still going after it. I'm still, vote for me, vote for me. I will actually try to still get rid of Obamacare, even though nobody wants it. Yeah, okay. Now, others are arguing that Republicans should just move on to other agenda items, such as tax reform. Now, this is, of course, from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Now, he said this past weekend that he doesn't like to dwell on situations where we come up a little bit short. Quote, even on the night when we came up one vote short of our dream to repeal and replace Obamacare, here's the first thing I thought about. Feel better. Hillary Clinton could be president, he said during an appearance at a Republican event in Kentucky. So that was his, remember, this was his dream. And I remember the exact moment where his dream was crushed. And it was awesome. So, now, again, this guy's dream was to keep millions of people off health insurance. What kind of dream is that? Who has this kind of dream? What does that say about Mitch McConnell as a person, as a human being? Doesn't say very much. Now, this guy's, again, this guy wants to move on, or these guys, Republicans, want to move on to tax reform. Now, whenever they say tax reform, they're essentially saying, let's cut taxes for wealthy corporations. That's essentially their plan. They want to cut corporate taxes to 15%. That's going to rob the Treasury of billions of dollars that we could use for infrastructure, social programs, education, and investment into America. And what's worse is that some Democrats are actually signaling their willingness to work with them on it, like the Blue Dogs. Oh, they can't wait. Now, and even if the Democrats decide not to, well, the GOP, they don't care if Democrats join them. They want to do the same thing that they tried to do with healthcare, pass it with budget reconciliation. That only needs 51 votes. Now, of course, in order to do budget reconciliation, it doesn't have to, any plan should not add to the deficit. So in order to balance that out, again, they use their predictions of dynamic growth, right? So they use fuzzy math on it. Like, oh no, if we cut taxes for corporations, that's going to lead to 3% growth. No, it's not. Look at Kansas. They cut taxes to the bone. And you know what happened? They actually got less money. They collected less in taxes and actually had far less growth. So again, even they're using their dynamic scoring, they would also have to concede, well, look, this is a large tax cut. We are going to see some less revenue. So what we have to do is, I guess we're going to have to cut social programs. We're going to have to cut education. We're going to have to cut food stamps. We're going to have to cut all these different programs in order to make these tax cuts revenue neutral. Again, giant tax cuts for the rich and corporations, for them, giant cuts in welfare programs for you. It's sort of a win-win for Republicans, for conservatives. They hate the idea that we actually try to help care for the poor people. They want to cut Medicaid. In fact, their recent plan tried to cut Medicaid over $700 billion. They want to cut subsidies to people with health insurance plans in order to sabotage the ACA. And so, again, they want to cut Medicare, Social Security, food stamps, all that so they can give their donors billions and billions of dollars in tax cuts, which have been shown not to create jobs. So, look, you create jobs not by cutting corporate taxes for the rich, which are already at a really low level. What they actually pay is far less than 39%. Okay? What you do is you create jobs when you actually have demand. When people with lower or middle incomes, they actually have money to spend. And then they go and spend it. They go spend it at the local store. Rich people, look, I like to bag on rich people a lot. I think that's obvious. But especially when it comes to them wanting to lower their own taxes, right? And now, it's not because I hate rich people. It's not because I want to punish rich people for being successful. I actually celebrate their success. I also don't bag on them because I love taxes. No, I hate paying taxes. Everybody hates paying taxes. But I realize that taxation is necessary for things. Stuff. Roads, bridges, help for poor people. A military. Which, by the way, the military, I think, needs a massive tamp back. You need to decrease that funding so we can actually stop the practice of military adventurism in the Middle East. That's one thing I would agree with Trump on. We need to stop bombing the Middle East and getting into ridiculous wars. Okay? But look, overall, a country needs stuff in order to run, in order to function. And there are certain things that the free market, is not good at. Okay? So there's a reason that you need taxes to fund government programs. And those government programs do stuff that the free market cannot do successfully, like healthcare and education. Now, the free market makes some decent shoes, except for, of course, Nike that got caught, using what's pretty close to considered slave labor in order to make some of their shoes, which were made with cheap material, cheap labor, and ended up falling apart 3 months later after you get a pair. Yeah, okay, so, but look, you see my point, right? Now, Republicans like Orrin Hatch, well, they don't want the government in healthcare because it means that the donors have to pay a little bit more in taxes to make sure that people have access to healthcare. And one of the reasons that the ACA repeal failed is because the ACA expanded access to healthcare for millions of people. Turns out, when these millions of people get access to healthcare that they didn't have before, they kind of like it. They kind of want to keep it. So that's why the repeal effort completely failed. Because so many people out there who are going to be impacted by the repeal of the ACA came out and they fought for it. They fought for it using town halls. They protested. They sent letters. They pushed some of the more moderate GOP members into voting against removing the ACA. And now Hatch is admitting that he threw everything at repeal. The Republicans threw everything at the repeal, and they still lost. And now, essentially saying, I'm done. We shot our wad. Now it's time to just roll over and do something else. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.